Well, hello everybody. Tonight we're going to read chapter 35. It begins on page 314, and it's not that long. Buck naked statue, an erotic colossus. Why art thy undies? Even my supernatural powers of description fail me. Imagine seeing yourself as a 100-foot tall bronze statue, a replica of your own magnificence, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. Now, imagine that this ridiculously handsome statue is wading out of Long Island Sound onto the North Shore. In his hand is a ship's rudder, a blade the size of a stealth bomber, fixed to a 50-foot long pole, and Mr. Gorgeous is raising said rudder to smash the crud out of Camp Half-Blood. This was the sight that greeted us as we flew in from the woods. How is that thing alive? Kayla demanded. What did Nero do? Order it online? The Triumvirate has vast resources, I told her. They had centuries to prepare. Once they reconstructed the statue, all they had to do was fill it with some animating magic, usually the harnessed life forces of wind or water spirits. I'm not sure. That's really more of Hephaestus's specialty. So how do we kill it? I'm working on that. All across the valley, campers screamed and ran for their weapons. Nico and Will were floundering in the lake, apparently having been capsized in the middle of a canoe ride. Chiron galloped through the dunes, harrying the Colossus with his arrows. Even by my standards, Chiron was a very fine archer. He targeted the statue's joints and seams, yet his shots did not seem to bother the automation at all. Already dozens of missiles struck from the colossal's armpits and neck like unruly hair. More quivers, Chiron shouted. Quickly! Rachel Dare stumbled from the armory carrying half a dozen, and she ran to resupply him. The colossus brought down his rudder to smash the dining pavilion, but his blade bounced off the camp's magical barrier, sparking as if it had hit solid metal. Mr. Gorgeous took another step inland, but the barrier resisted him, pushing him back with the force of a wind tunnel. On Half-Blood Hill, a silver aura surrounded the Athena Parthenos. I wasn't sure the demagogue could see it, but every so often a beam of ultraviolet light shot from Athena's helmet like a search lamp, hitting the colossal's chest and pushing back the invader. Next to her, in the tall pine tree, the golden fleece blazed with fire energy. The dragon Pellus hissed and paced around the trunk, ready to defend his turf. Top of page 316. These were powerful forces, but I did not need godly sight to tell me that they would soon fail. The camp's defensive barriers were designed to turn away the occasional stray monster, to confuse mortals and prevent them from detecting the valley, and to provide a first line of defense against invading forces. A criminally beautiful 100-foot tall celestial bronze giant was another thing entirely. Soon the Colossus would break through and destroy everything in its path. Apollo, Kayla nudged me in the ribs. What do we do? I stirred again, and with the unpleasant realization that I was expected to have answers, my first instinct was to order a seasoned demagogue to take charge. Wasn't it the weekend yet? Where was Percy Jackson? Or those Roman praetors, Frank Zang and Reina Ramphres Ariellano? Yes, they would have done nicely. My second instinct is to turn to Meg McCaffrey. How quickly I had grown used to her annoying yet strangely endearing presence. Alas, she was gone. Her absence felt like a colossus stomping upon my heart. This was an easy metaphor to summon, since the colossus was presently stomping on a great many things. Flanking us on either side, the soldier ants flew in formation, awaiting the queen's orders. The demigods watched me anxiously, random bits of bandage fluff swirling from their bodies as we sped through the air. As we sped through the air, I leaned forward and spoke to Mama in a soothing tone. I know I cannot ask you to risk your life for us. Mama hummed, as if to say, "You're done right." Just give us one pass around that statue's head, I asked. Enough to distract it. Then set us down on the beach. She clicked her mandibles doubtfully. You're the best mama in the whole world, I added, and you look lovely today. That line always worked with Lido. It did the trick with Mama Ant, too. She twitched her antennae, perhaps sending a high-frequency signal to her soldiers, and all three ants banked hard to the right. Below us, more campers joined the battle. Sherman Yang had harnessed 2 Pegasi to a chariot and was now circling on the statue's legs, while Julia and Alice threw electric javelins at Colossus's knees. The missile struck in his joints, discharging tendrils of blue lightning, but the statue barely seemed to notice. Meanwhile, at his feet, Connor Stoll and Holly used twin flamethrowers to give the Colossus a molten pedicure, while the Nike twins manned a catapult, lobbing boulders at Colossus' celestial bronze crotch. Malcolm Pace, a true child of Athena, was coordinating the attacks from a hastily organized command post on the green. He and Nissa had spread war maps across a card table and were shouting targeting coordinates, while Chira, Damien, Paolo, and Billy rushed to set up ballistae around the communal hearth. Malcolm looked like the perfect battlefield commander, except for the fact that he'd forgotten his pants. His red briefs made quite a statement with his sword and leather cuirass. Mama dove toward the Colossus, leaving my stomach at a higher altitude. I had a moment to appreciate the statue's regal features. Its metal brow rimmed with a spiky crown meant to represent the beams of the sun. The Colossus was supposed to be Nero as the sun god, but the emperor had wisely made the face resemble mine more closely than his. Only the line of its nose and its ghastly neckbeard suggested Nero's trademark ugliness. Also, did I mention that the 100-foot-tall statue was entirely nude? Well, of course it was. Gods are always depicted as nude, because we are flawless beings. Why would you cover up perfection? Still, it was little disconcerting to see my buck-naked self stomping around, slamming a ship's rudder at Camp Half-Blood. As we approached the Colossus, I bellowed loudly, "Imposter! I am the real Apollo. You're ugly." Oh dear, reader. It was hard to yell such words at my own handsome visage, but I did. Such was my courage. The Colossus did not like being insulted. As Mama and her soldiers veered away, the statue swung its rudder upward. Have you ever collided with a bomber? I had sudden flashback to Dresden in 1945, when the planes were so thick in the air, I literally could not find a safe lane to drive in. The axle on the Sun Chariot was out of alignment for weeks after that. I realized the ants were not fast enough flyers to escape the rudder's reach. I saw a catastrophe approaching in slow motion. At the last possible moment, I yelled, "Dive!" We plunged straight down. The rudder only clipped the ant's wings, but it was enough to send us spiraling toward the beach. I was grateful for soft sand. I ate quite a bit of it when we crash landed, but by sheer luck, none of us died, though Kayla and Austin had to pull me to my feet. "Are you okay?" Austin asked. "Fine," I said. "We must hurry." The Colossus stared down at us, perhaps trying to discern whether we were dying in agony yet, or needed some additional pain. I had wanted to get his attention. I had succeeded. Huzzah. I glanced at Mama and her soldiers. We were shaking the sand off their carapaces. "Thank you. Now save yourselves. Fly." They did not need to be told twice. I suppose ants have a natural fear of large humanoids looming over them, about to squash them with a heavy foot. Mama and her guards buzzed into the sky. Mama looked after her. I'd never said I'd say this about bugs, but I'm going to miss those guys. "Hey," called Nico D'Angelo. He and Will scrambled over the dunes, still dripping from their swim in the cars of the lake. Their swim in the canoe lake. "What's the plan?" Will seemed calm, but I knew him well enough by now to tell that inside he was as charged as a bare electrical wire. Boom! The statue strode towards us. One more step, and it would be on top of us. Isn't there a control valve on its ankle? Ellis asked. If we can open it. No, I said. You're thinking of Talos. This is not Talos. Nico brushed his dark, wet hair from his forehead. Then what? I had a lovely view of the Colossus's nose. Its nostrils were sealed with bronze. I suppose because Nero hadn't wanted his detractors trying to shoot arrows into his imperial noggin. I yelped. Kayla grabbed my arm. Apollo, what's wrong? Arrows into the colossal's head. Oh, gods. I had an idea that would never, ever work. However, it seemed better than our other option, which was to be crushed under a 2-ton bronze foot. Will, Kayla, Austin, I said, come with me. And Nico, said Nico. I have a doctor's note. Fine, I said. Ellis, Cecil, Miranda, do whatever you can to keep the Colossus' attention. The shadow of an enormous foot darkened the sand. Now I yelled, scatter! The end of chapter 35.